The 2020 hurricane season is here. While we cannot control Mother Nature, we must prepare. The following information is designed to help you assemble your hurricane preparedness kit. Make sure you have at least 7 days of water supplies, 7 to 14 days of non-perishable goods such as canned foods, cereals, soups and energy snacks, battery or solar-operated radios, flashlights with extra batteries, first aid kits including prescription medication, and have extra cash in hand. Remember to get all these supplies before a storm or hurricane approaches.
Hello and welcome to In the Studio. We're into month 2 of the hurricane season and we thought we'd bring you up to date with efforts at Dominica's Office of Disaster Management to ensure that we are prepared to face the weather events that are likely over the next few months. We will also recap the predictions for the season and discuss what it all means. With me today is Marshal Alexander, the acting Senior Met Officer, and Fitzroy Pascal, the National Disaster Coordinator at the ODM. Gentlemen, hello and welcome to In the Studio.
Yes, good day. It's a pleasure to be here to share pertinent information to the general public. Yeah, that's part of our mandate to educate the public on weather-related events and terms and so on.
Mr. Pascal, welcome.
Yeah, good day, Dionne, and good day to all viewers. It's a pleasure to be here to share information.
Mr. Alexander, I'd like to start with you. The hurricane season is already well underway. We've had 5 named events. Bring us up to date with the official prediction for the hurricane season.
Well, the prediction made by NOAA is for an above normal season, and that was done with 70% confidence and a 60% chance for an above normal season. And with that prediction, the expectation is for 13 to 19 named storms, of which 6 to 10 are expected to become hurricanes, and 3 to 6 expect to become major hurricanes of category 3, 4, or 5. So far, we've had 5 storms develop. We had 2 in May, 2 in June, and just recently we had Edward develop over the weekend. Yeah. But the prediction remains for an above normal season, despite the fact that we are seeing the presence of Sahara dust. And most of the systems which developed over the past few days, most of them developed in the North Atlantic and around the Gulf, and they pose no threat to us in Dominica.
We've heard before, probably in the past month or so, that the predictions this year are similar to what we saw in 2017. What accounts for the prediction, the above normal season we're having this year?
Well, based on climatology, there is an average. And the average for a normal season would spawn 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. And as the prediction is between 13 to 19, and 6 to 10, and 3 to 6, that's above the normal 12, 6, and 2. So it's an above normal season. And now the reasons for the prediction is number 1, the absence of El Nino. And if there is no El Nino, then there would be a reduction in wind shear across the Atlantic. So El Nino is basically the warming of the ocean of the Eastern Pacific, and that would create a lot of wind shear. But with the absence of El Nino, less wind shear, and that would encourage the development of tropical cyclones. Another factor is the warming of the ocean of the Atlantic. As you know, the warmer oceans would encourage the development of tropical cyclones. And the next factor would be favorable winds or winds over Africa that would encourage the development of systems.
As we said, we've already seen the development of 5 systems. We also had this experience with the Sahara dust, and just this week we've seen quite a bit of rain, and more is predicted over the weekend. From your experience, would you say that the season is progressing according to expectations, of course within the context that is expected to be an above normal season?
Well, the first 2 storms formed in May is something that was a record because the first time it ever happened. And based on the prediction, there is a climatology of formation of systems. Towards the beginning of the season, you have the systems being developed or being formed in the Gulf or around the North Atlantic. And then towards the middle of the season, that will be approaching August, September, you will have the systems developing in the Atlantic Ocean. And by then, it would definitely be posing a threat to us in Dominica. So you will have tropical waves developing in the Atlantic and moving across from east to west, and some of them developing into systems and moving sometimes straight across and sometimes towards the north.
I'd like to move on a little bit to Fitzroy Pascal, who is the National Disaster Coordinator at the ODM. Fitzroy, we're coming out of an interesting past 4 to 5 years with the experiences of Erica and Hurricane Maria. How has the ODM improved, or rather, how is the ODM improving and adjusting its approach to disaster preparedness?
Again, thanks Dionne, and thanks for having me. The ODM, the Secretariat to the National Emergency Planning Organization, it's just the Secretariat, so we just have a small staff. We cannot do it alone, so we are currently engaging the various communities, and we are strengthening the communities to assist us in disaster management, not just preparedness, but all the 4 phases of the cycle. So at present, we are going into the communities and engaging the persons in the communities, providing the necessary trainings for them as we speak. We have gone into the Laplin district and also the Castlebruce district, providing training in terms of shelter management and also basic radio communication. We have also done CIRT, Community Emergency Response Training, and we have done that island-wide, and to date we have some 400 persons trained in that disaster management training. We also engage in the first responders, the police, the fire, and the health personnel in a national emergency response team. Since they're the first responders, we thought it best to bring them together and form a team so that they can respond to situations. So the ODM is not operating in isolation. We are engaging everyone, all stakeholders, to assist in the disaster management efforts on island.
When you speak about all stakeholders, I know you're also part of NEPO. The stakeholders, I'm assuming, include several government entities.
Yes, as I said, we are the Secretariat to the National Emergency Planning Organization. This is the organization on island that ensures that the country is in a state of readiness year-round, and not just during the hurricane season, but year-round. We embracing the comprehensive disaster management philosophy. So we're looking at all the phases, all the people. That is where the community engagement is going, and also all the phases of the disaster management cycle, all the people.
What lessons would you say we learned from 2015 and 2017 that have instructed our response and probably helped us adjust the way we do things? Okay,
well, during Maria, coming out of Maria, and also Erica, we looked at 6 areas. We looked at security, we looked at shelter management, we looked at search and rescue, communications, we looked at access, and we looked at relief. So lessons learned going forward in terms of security. As you know, the police have now put this curfew in order that whenever there's a pending event, we put out the curfew so that we will reduce the amount of unnecessary persons on the road. In terms of shelter management, we are going towards purposefully built shelters, and we saw the opening of one in Layu recently. There are 2 more to come on stream in the immediate future, which will be at Castle Bruce and Jimit. In terms of search and rescue, I mentioned the National Emergency Response Teams comprising the police, health and fire. In terms of access, we are pre-positioning equipment all over the island. And in terms of radio communication, as I said, we're going out in the field to get the community people engaged in basic radio communication training. And we're also providing satellite phones for essential personnel.
We're in July, and we hope that our citizens have already begun preparation. But from where you sit at the ODM, why is it important to begin preparations for the season before or at least early in the season? And what should our plan look like?
It is always necessary to plan. When you plan, you assess your situation, and coming out of your assessment, you will decide what you need to do and who should do it and how you should go about doing it. Everyone should have a plan in terms of securing their life first, and then their property, and even the business places in terms of business continuity. They should ensure that they have these plans. So in terms of planning, you should have the basic necessities. For those of us who live close to waterways, you should have an evacuation plan, and you should know what you have to stock up on your basic necessities, and also your surroundings in terms of, or if you have overhanging trees, you should make sure that these are cut, and also what you have to do
to protect your homes, your families, your communities, etc. We understand, but if we have to get a little bit more specific and talk about a checklist for survival. I know at the ODM you have put together some checklists as to what people need as they prepare for a storm. So what should my survival kit look like?
Dionne, I know that everyone would have disaster management in Dominica should be by now routine. So your basic kit should involve water, 3 days supply. You should have non-perishable food items, and also your radio, your lanterns, if you have emergency lighting, generators, fuel for your generators. You should have some cash on hand. Also safeguard your documents, your various documents. And if you have any medication, if you have any medical needs, you should also ensure that you are stocked up on medication.
Marshall, part of that planning would involve keeping up to date with weather information so that you're always informed if there is a system developing, so you know what to do, when to spring into action, etc. How is the Met Office improving its public outreach to ensure that people are kept informed?
Well, the Met Service is doing a lot in terms of finding different means to bring the information to persons out there. And that's one of them. You know, what we do, we have a website where we put information for the forecast information, the 3-day forecast information, and we also have a resource page where persons can go on there and look at the meaning of the different terms we use. You know, what is latitude, what is longitude, for example. We also have a Facebook page. You know, we do weather reports 3 times a day. We update the website 3 times a day also. We also have numbers you can call, and we also give out information for WhatsApp. You know, some people like to have their personalized information, so we have WhatsApp groups where we would send information, and then other people would transfer the information to other persons. Because the Met Office is very important as it relates to localizing the information. Because the information we get would be a general information, for example, of a tropical cyclone advisory would come from National Hurricane Center, and then they would even specify that you'd have to get your information specific to your area from your local Met Service. So we would be more focused on what is local. We'd be focused on Dominica. For example, they would give a general location, but we at the Met Service would break it down and make the information be suitable to the general public, which is in Dominica.
I know your presence has increased on social media. Are you also exploring ways to make the weather information simplified for citizens?
Yes, we have had that call before, so we are trying our best, to really listen to the public and to try our best to fulfill their needs in terms of getting them to better understand information. Some of the ways is that we go out to certain organizations to do presentations on weather and helping to understand the weather.
In keeping with the social media theme that we're talking about, I know we've had some difficulty in recent years with a large flow of information via social media, some of it not very reliable, some of it reliable, of course. What is the advice from the Met Office as to how we should access information and which information we should give credence to?
Well, we always say that you have to get information from credible sources. I mean, rumors has been a problem over the past few years because sometimes there might be a minor system outside and like a tropical wave, and then you find people sending information, that is probably a year or two ago, and that would kind of make people more uneasy and get them frightened and so on. So it's like they're making the job of the Met Service a little more difficult. And sometimes the type of people you see sending the information, is like you don't send information out without verifying that information. So at least you have access to the Met Service, you have access to a number you can call, you have access to a website, we have access, we have a Facebook page. So there are a lot of means you can try to clarify or to verify information before sending it out, especially if it looks, kind of weird.
So the general advice is that the first point of information, reliable information during the hurricane season should be the Met Office.
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Pascal, similarly, I know the ODM is also concerned about disseminating public information during the hurricane season. What are your plans for public education over the next few months?
Well, Dionne, a series of PSAs, public service announcements, have been ongoing, and they have been being aired on all available social media. We have PSAs on the radio, we have stuff on television, also on Facebook, and we intend to keep that going for the next couple of months. As I speak, we're looking for funding to prolong this the development of these PSAs. I know you too, some people are doing their own PSAs, but like Marshall said, the primary source of information should be the technical expert on island, which is the Met Service and the Office of Disaster Management.
And just to add to that, because there are some persons that might be able to understand certain information. For example, there might be an advisory, you might understand a certain part of the information, but then some of the other information might be more technical. And then another example would be like looking at a satellite imagery. You look at a satellite imagery, it might be an infrared satellite imagery. And then when you look at an area near Dominica, you would see like a red area. And then you would think, well, we're in trouble. And then it might just be high clouds, because infrared satellite would only give based on temperature. So the colder the temperature is the deeper the color. So you'd find you have a lot of red. And then it might not be that we're in trouble. It might be just a portion of high clouds in our area.
Fitzroy, in terms of interpreting information, I know last year, it may have been 2 years ago, time does go by quickly, you held some training for media practitioners, and the Met Office was also involved. Is that something we can look forward to continuing in terms of ensuring that the people transmitting the information, they too are knowledgeable about weather and preparedness information?
Yes, Dionne, definitely. The training that you spoke of, this was held last year, August, in conjunction with CDMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, and the local Met Service. And we had a very good turnout. It was held on a weekend, and we intend to have it annually. And we're hoping that the numbers will definitely increase so that the media practitioners out there will assist us in putting out the correct information.
We've had some detail from Marshall about how we can access weather information on the Facebook page, on their website, etc. Is there a way to get in touch with the ODM if we need to speak directly with you about preparedness measures that we should be taking during this time?
Yeah, the ODM has a website, www.odm.gov, and also there's a Facebook page at ODM Dominica 1, at ODM Dominica 1.
I wonder though, since I have both of you here this morning, if you could talk to us a little bit about how our two entities, that is the Met Office and the ODM, how you two are working together to improve the overall disaster response in Dominica.
Well, I will start by talking from the Met point of view. The Met Office is responsible for hydrometeorological hazards. That would include like tropical cyclones, etc. So what we do is that we do our analysis, our internal analysis, and then we come to a conclusion. For example, whether we're going to issue a watch or warning, and then the discussion begins with the Met Office, and then it involves. Then we join in with the ODM in the discussion, and then we make the decision as to how we go about issuing a watch or warning in terms of how the protocol goes.
Yeah, Dionne, we work together to ensure that timely and relevant information is disseminated. And as Marshall said, when it goes to watch or warning stage, that is where NIPO is involved. Since this information is very critical and may have far-reaching implications, if a watch or warning is arbitrarily placed on Dominica, you know what can happen. The country can be shut down unnecessarily. And that is why both the Met and the ODM work in tandem, and also the whole NEPO system is engaged as soon as it relates to a watch or warning.
Okay, so you do work in tandem to ensure that the best information is disseminated to the public. As we wind down this discussion, I'd like to start with Marshall Alexander of the Met Office and ask you, what would be some advice, some words that you would like to leave with the general public as we go through the hurricane season?
Well, I always advise the general public that preparation is key, regardless of the prediction, because the prediction for the hurricane season is not a landfall prediction. You know, it's a prediction for formation of storms, but it only takes one system to make it a bad year for us. You know, so persons have to take the information serious and do their preparedness activity, you know, ahead of the season. And even we can be impacted by systems even outside of the hurricane season, you know, because most times, like after the hurricane season is over, then we have some system coming through and bringing a lot of rain and causing a lot of more flooding that we didn't even experience even during the season. So even outside the hurricane season, outside of the season, we have to be prepared. You know, just to give some information from the Met Service, our website is weather.gov.dm. Our Facebook page is Dominica Met, or you can call 449-1752 if you want to get further information.
Mr. Pascal?
Yeah, well, I would talk on planning and ensure that your plan is not, it doesn't have to be foolproof, but at least you're continuously reviewing your plan, and there's a saying, where you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
I'd like to thank both you gentlemen for joining us today on In the Studio. We look forward to chatting with you again as the hurricane season progresses, so that we can keep up to date on preparatory measures to keep ourselves, our families, and our communities safe. Our hope is that we are not impacted by any major event during this hurricane season, but in the event that we are, we encourage you to prepare ahead of time so that you keep yourselves and your families safe. Thank you so much for joining us.